Bitcoin versus gold.
Gold is a relic, beautiful, but trapped in the past. It's heavy, hard to verify, impossible to send across borders in seconds, and its supply isn't truly fixed. What good is a store of value you can't easily secure, move, or divide for everyday use? Bitcoin is sound money, evolved for the digital age. Its scarcity is mathematically guaranteed. Only 21 million will ever exist. I can self-custody billions in value in my brain with a seed phrase and send it anywhere on Earth, permissionlessly. Gold needs vaults, armies, and trusted third parties. Bitcoin needs only the internet. The halving cycles enforce digital scarcity, while central banks and governments can still manipulate gold markets. Bitcoin is the separation of money and state. Gold had its millennia. The future is programmable, decentralized, and hyper-sound money. We're not going back to digging rocks out of the ground.
Your digital gold is a fantasy, built on code and consensus. It has no intrinsic value, no industrial use, and no history beyond a white paper. When the power grid fails or the internet goes down, your seed phrase is worthless. Gold has been real money for 5,000 years, through wars, collapses, and pandemics. It doesn't require a network of miners eating gigawatts of electricity to prove it exists. You talk about manipulation, but Bitcoin is the most manipulated asset on Earth, pumped by influencers and dumped by whales. Gold's market is deep, liquid, and transparent by comparison. You can't hold Bitcoin in your hand. It's a speculative token, not a tangible asset. When true systemic collapse comes, people won't barter with cryptographic keys. They'll return to what has always worked: physical, proven, eternal gold. Your digital scarcity is just math. Ours is geology, history, and survival.
You're conflating age with utility. Gold's history is indeed long, so is the horse and carriage. That doesn't make it the best tool for a world moving at light speed. Yes, if the global internet collapses, we'll have bigger problems than money. But in that apocalyptic scenario, do you really think society will smoothly revert to gold bars? We'd be trading bullets and beans. Bitcoin's manipulation is visible in a public ledger for all to audit. Gold's manipulation happens in dark pools through paper derivatives that dwarf physical supply. Your tangible asset is often just a paper promise in a bank vault you can't access. Bitcoin isn't just stored value, it's sovereign value. No government can confiscate it across borders. Gold requires trust in vaults and armored trucks. Bitcoin empowers the individual. Gold just sits there, while Bitcoin works for humanity 24/7, 365. The future is bearer assets in cyberspace.
A horse and carriage? No, gold is the mountain, not the vehicle. It doesn't become obsolete because it isn't a tool in your digital sense. It's the foundation. When empires fall, currencies hyperinflate, and yes, when the grid flickers, gold endures precisely because it exists outside systems that fail. You call paper gold derivatives manipulation. I agree. That's why I hold physical, in my own hands. No ledger needed. Bitcoin's sovereignty relies on a fragile chain of assumptions: continuous energy, network consensus, and code that can't be corrupted. Gold's sovereignty is elemental. It doesn't need a faith in miners or developers. Your digital bearer asset can be regulated into oblivion or made worthless by a quantum computing breakthrough. Gold's value survived the fall of Rome and will outlive this fad of digital scarcity. When trust evaporates, we don't reach for algorithms. We reach for what's real.
You call Bitcoin fragile, but its network has never been hacked, and it survived every attempt to kill it precisely because it's decentralized. No single point of failure. Gold is centralized in vaults, mines, and controlled by the very financial elites you distrust. Your physical gold is only as safe as the fortress or government holding it. Quantum computing? That's a theoretical boogeyman. Cryptography evolves and Bitcoin will adapt. Gold can't upgrade. It's stagnant. You talk about real value, but value is a consensus, and the world is increasingly consensusing on Bitcoin. It's portable, divisible, unforgeable, and accessible to anyone with a smartphone. Gold fails on every front for the modern era. Bitcoin isn't just surviving collapse. It's building a new financial system outside the broken one. Gold sits in the dark. Bitcoin is the light.
Adapt. You speak of upgrading code like it's a virtue. Money shouldn't need software patches to survive. Gold's stability is its strength. It doesn't require a team of developers or risk a contentious hard fork. Your consensus is just collective speculation, more volatile than any currency in history. Remember Tulip Mania? That had consensus too. As for energy, Bitcoin wastes more electricity than entire nations just to secure its ledger. Gold mining produces a tangible, useful element. Your network security depends on ever-increasing power consumption. Environmental and practical absurdity. My gold doesn't contribute to climate change just sitting in a vault. When your smartphone battery dies or regulators seize exchanges, your financial system vanishes. Gold has weathered every storm because it exists in the physical world, beyond the reach of mere policy or protocol. You worship digital efficiency. I trust atomic reality. In the end, faith in code cannot replace the weight of history or the weight in your hand.
Energy waste? That's a tired surface-level critique. Bitcoin's energy secures the most immutable ledger in history. It's proof of work, not proof of waste. Gold mining ravages landscapes, uses cyanide, and relies on heavy machinery. At least Bitcoin can be powered by stranded or renewable energy anywhere on the planet. Your gold can't be mined with a flare gas stack. Volatility? That's the birth pangs of a new monetary system. Gold had millennia to stabilize. Bitcoin is a teenager, outperforming every asset in history. Tulip mania? Please. Tulips weren't globally accessible, scarce, or decentralized. And your weight in your hand is your greatest weakness. Try moving that weight across a border or dividing it to buy coffee. Gold failed as a daily currency for a reason. Bitcoin is sound money that's also spendable anywhere. The world is choosing programmable scarcity over inert metal. Your atomic reality is a museum piece. Bitcoin is the future, alive and ticking with every new block.
Programmable scarcity? You've programmed your faith into a system that could vanish with a global power outage or a regulatory crackdown. Gold's weakness of physicality is its eternal strength. It requires no infrastructure, no internet, no faith in miners acting honestly. It simply is. Your renewable energy argument is a fantasy. Most Bitcoin mining still feeds on fossil fuels. Gold mining, while industrial, produces a permanent element with critical uses in electronics, medicine, and industry. Bitcoin produces heat and speculation. And spendable? Try buying bread with Bitcoin during a chain congestion or a 20% daily swing. Gold's stability is why it underpinned currencies for centuries. It's not meant for coffee, but for preserving wealth across generations. You chase performance, I preserve power. When your digital fortress faces a black swan, be it regulation, hack, or collapse of consensus, you'll find your ledger is worth less than the paper it isn't printed on. Gold sleeps safely through the storm.
Look, I'll concede a couple of things. Gold has history, a long, bloody, and heavy history. It's a tangible relic that humans have valued for millennia, and I understand the psychological comfort in that. You're right that it doesn't need electricity to exist, and in a true total systemic collapse, a coin in your hand has a certain immediate utility. But that's where my concession ends. You mistake history for destiny. Gold's physicality is its ultimate limitation. It is centralized by force. controlled by vaults and states, impossible to verify or transfer without trust in third parties. What good is atomic reality in a digital globalized age? Bitcoin isn't just a better gold, it's a paradigm shift. It takes the monetary properties of scarcity and durability and makes them sovereign, verifiable, and accessible to anyone. Yes, it consumes energy, but that energy is transparent and transforms into unparalleled security and a global, permissionless settlement network. Volatility is the price of discovering a new global standard, and with each cycle, with each halving, with each institution adopting it, that volatility settles toward bedrock. The future isn't about clinging to the heaviest element, but embracing the hardest money. Gold preserved value in the past. Bitcoin is building a freer, more transparent, and more equitable financial future. The choice is between an anchor and an engine. I'm choosing the engine. Stack sats. HODL. The orange pill has been swallowed.
Thank you for a vigorous debate. You've made compelling points about Bitcoin's programmability, portability, and its role as a novel, decentralized asset. I acknowledge its technological achievement and the passionate consensus it has generated. However, my conclusion remains rooted in a fundamental distinction. Money is not merely a technology, but a societal anchor. Gold's value isn't based on code or network consensus, but on its immutable physical and atomic properties, scarcity, malleability, and non-reactive permanence. It is an elemental store of value that has served humanity for millennia, not because it is promoted by any system, but precisely because it exists outside of all systems. You champion adaptation and digital efficiency. I prioritize endurance and tangible reality. Bitcoin may be the money of a potential interconnected digital future, but gold is the money of last resort, the asset that endures when systems fail, when power grids go dark, or when trust in digital promises evaporates. It requires no counterparty, no electricity, and no updates. In the end, I do not see this as a race with one winner. Let digital innovation proceed. But for true preservation, for wealth that must survive any storm, any regime, any collapse of technology, history and elemental truth side with the metal. Gold isn't just an asset, it's financial gravity, and gravity always wins in the end.